Check, check. Check 1, 2. Mic, yellow mic. Check, check 1. Everyone got me? Hi, good morning. Welcome to the table. We are so happy that you're here with us this morning. It's been a morning for us. We have had some technical difficulties, so thank you for bearing with us, hanging in there, and staying for service, and we'll get it started. So we have a special little treat this morning. The folks behind me are all high schoolers from Raytown South. I'm a Raytown, sorry. Blue Springs South High School. Man, one of them's my own child. I just got his high school wrong. Blue Springs South. We have Sam and Bryce and my son Max and Kinley here on the tuba. I'm on the struggle bus, it's fine. The tuba, Max's trombone. So these two were district band. They made districts this year. And we were third chair in district. So we'll give them a little round of applause because they've been working their tails off. They were all marching, and then they went from districts. They're rehearsing for London coming up. So I'm just really excited that they agreed to squeeze us in. It's a lot. So sorry, I'll stop talking and bragging on all of you. But I'm going to let them start us. And if you know it, you know, try to sing along. Not on. There we go. Thank you guys so much. That was really pretty. They're never going to let me live it down that I said Raytown instead of Blue Springs South. So sorry. I know. He just said he's really disappointed in me. I love you, Max. I just love doing things a little bit differently around the holidays. Something about brass and like strings. Anytime we can get them, I love to try to squeeze that in. So thank you for having a little bit of a different experience. I'm going to let these guys clear the stage. So afterwards, we'll do a little caroling song together. But I'll just invite you guys to bow your heads and pray with me. Lord Father, thank you so much for the joy and the love and the peace that we are getting from you this season. We are so thankful for each other, thankful for you and your grace and your mercy, and for the opportunity to be here together to worship you and to love on each other. And after last week's service, what we kind of learned is some of us need a little bit of extra loving around this time of year. So that's what we're all here for. We're here to support each other and to love on one another as we continue to spread peace and joy through the season. I just pray, God, that as we move through love today, that you teach all of us how to kind of lead that way in our communities and give love to everyone around us. Amen.
The season of Advent is here. The season of love. It was a love that moved heaven to earth. A love that came wrapped in swaddling cloth, laid in a manger, humble and holy. May you receive a love like no other this Christmas, not earned through your deeds, but paid for and freely gifted to you. Unconditional, everlasting love. And as you look to those around you, may you see the lonely, the hurting, and the broken. And allow this gift that you have freely received to freely overflow to them. And as you share it, may you grow deeper in the knowledge and revelation of the unconditional love of the Father. For love is active, love moves, love gives. God is love. Be blessed with love this Advent.
Well, good morning. We can do better than that. Good morning. It's been a morning. I think you got some of that from Shelly. It has been, you have one of those days where it just like, if something could go just a little bit sideways, it goes sideways. And we've had like 17 of those things this morning from tech to, anyway, you name it this morning, and it's just been one of those rough mornings. But Santa was here. We had pancakes. We had waffles. Many of you are here today. And so I just want to celebrate and thank you all for being here. Now, every week, we light our Advent candles. And so we started with hope the first week. The second week, we went to, what was it? Peace, that's right. See, he knows. That's kind of, and today, we light the candle of love. We think we're lighting the candle of love. There it goes. All right. Love, love, love. We are going somewhere. I have notes up here. We are going to talk a little bit about love today. Now, when we talk about love, we often think of or talk about romantic love. How many of you can go and kill those spots, by the way. How many of you remember when you first fell in love with your significant other, your partner, your spouse? How many of you remember like that feeling? Like, or anybody, like that feeling, what are you two doing? I know, like, because you're still there? Is that why you're not raising your hands? No, you're just laughing. Okay, fair enough. So I want you all to go back to a time when you remembered your significant other, when you remember falling in love with them, okay? You got that in your head? For Stacy and I think the first time I told her I loved her, we had just had an argument, is this correct? And we were camping, and I said, I think I was mad at her about something. I said, but I love you. And she goes, I love you too? Like she wasn't sure. But in every relationship, love is the key component, and love, hopefully, throughout our lives, will be a theme in our lives. So I was Christmas shopping this week, and I bought a few presents, and I took them home. And how many of you hide your Christmas presents until you have time to wrap them? Okay? So we hide ours, and I'm digging around. I go home, and I'm getting ready to put them in our closet, and I'm digging around. I'm getting ready to hide them in our closet, and our closet's full of a bunch of junk, okay? And I find this box, and I'm like, what is this? And there's like a dollar bill sticking out of it. I'm like, what is? And this is a big box, y'all, big box. And I open this box, and it's full of dollar bills, right? I mean, just a ton of money. And I'm looking at this thing going, what in the heck is my wife doing? Like, I didn't put these there. And when I say a bunch, I mean like stacks of, like you ever seen a stack of $100 bills and it's wrapped? Like it's like this thick, right? There's just stack after stack after stack. And I'm like, what? I'm just going through this. I'm like, what is going on? And so in this box is all this, and then there's this one little like crocheted doll, okay? So I go to her and I'm like, Stacy, what is this a savings account that I don't know about, whatever else? And she goes, no, honey, that's not. I'm like, what is this box? I was like, I feel like we could go buy a car with this, right? There's enough money. I was like, looks like, I mean, it could be $100,000 in there. She goes, no, it's only $95,000. And I'm like, $95,000 in our closet, unsecured, right? I said, what the heck is, and what is this doll? She goes, listen, when we got married, my mom sat me down and said, listen, anytime you get mad at Mike, anytime you're frustrated with him, just crochet a doll, okay? And I'm like, she's only been mad at me one time, right? There's only one doll in there. And I was so happy about that. I said, what's the $95,000? She goes, $95,264. I said, okay, what's the $95,264? She goes, I sold the other dolls every time I made one for $1 a piece. Obviously, that's not a true story, but it makes us think a little bit about love and what is love. How do we describe love? How do we define love? How does love and Advent and Jesus and Christ, how do all these things come together into one thing? Hopefully, we're going to dig into that a little bit today. Now, we've been talking about Advent. Advent is the time of year, right, where the days get shorter. We have less and less and less light, and so we light candles. But it's not just that the days are getting shorter. There's something else that's happening within us, too. The darkness just physically grows, but honestly, it's a difficult time for a lot of people. A lot of you have expressed feelings of sadness, feelings of darkness. And so we light candles. We talk about the arrival of Jesus in a way so that we remember. Now, Advent means anticipation. So to me, it's a little weird during Advent to say we're anticipating Jesus' arrival because Jesus was already born. And then some people say, well, we're anticipating the second arrival of Jesus. And I was like, okay. But how does that play into Advent? I hope to challenge maybe a few of those ideas today, because when I say we're anticipating the arrival of Jesus, I don't mean, we're not talking about a second coming or whatever. We're talking about what are the things that Jesus taught us that specifically we can apply to this time of year, because it is full of sorrow and grief and pain and darkness. And so we remember these things. What does it mean to love? How does love influence us? And how did Jesus teach us to love? Now, I'm not against a second coming of Jesus or anything like that, but I think sometimes when we're only focused on the future, right, when we say it's something about down the road or something that's later, we lose touch from the present. And so we started this series talking about hope. I used to define hope as that tomorrow could be better than today, and I think hope is different than that, and Jesus taught us this. Jesus taught us that to be present with people. It's okay to tell somebody that it's going to be okay, but to show them that it's okay, to spend time with them. Every month we have two focuses. We have a missional focus, which is our angel tree. We invite you all to buy gifts and to bring them in, and we give them to families here in our community. That's our tangible thing, our missional focus, and we also have a spiritual focus. So this month our spiritual focus is presence, not gifts. That's our tangible thing, but our spiritual presence, being with people. And we started with hope isn't just something in the future. Hope is right here and now. Hope isn't about salvation or heaven or hell or any of those things. It's about spending time being with people, being present with them in the moment. And then last week we talked about peace. I read a book called Let Them. It's really a book about peace, about letting people be who they are, letting them be in the spaces where they need to be in order for them to be the best versions of themselves. But instead, we often try to change people. And so being at peace is being at peace with all situations. It's a lot of fun. There are people, all of us are in different parts of our journey. And I shared my struggle. I struggle with this idea of peace. Okay, I struggle with, I want all of us to be the best version. I'm an Enneagram 3. I want to achieve. I want to do things. I want us to all be the best versions. And God bless Katie Meyer. Katie Meyer came up to me last week, and she just looks at me. She goes, I can't wait for you to just let them. It's wonderful. And I'm like, oh. It was a great moment because Katie's there. Katie, she knows. She's like, oh, yeah, I just, now her kids are a little older than mine. But it's great. It's great that all of us are in different parts of our journey, and she shared a part of her journey with me, and I shared a little bit about mine. And my hope is that did I get you? But it's wonderful. She's like, it's so great when you can just let them. Didn't you say that last week? And I love that she's in a different part of her journey. I'm not there yet. I am not there, but I'm glad some of you hopefully can get there. And I just want to reiterate this idea. I said this last week. I don't have the answers. I don't stand up here and claim to have some insight or different information than you all have. I just described the journey I'm on. And the fact that she described where she was in her journey, that's why we're here. That's true community. When we can share with each other and be vulnerable and be real. And I just love the fact that we can do that with one another. And so as we're talking, as we're continuing on in this series, I hope that you are able to share your stories with me, just like Katie did last week, about where are you in this? Because I love hearing where your part of the journey is, because honestly, when we can share our different journeys, well, that's really what it's about. That's how we're present with one another. Today, we're going to focus on this idea of love. And when we talk about love, like that opening story, we often think of a romantic love. But I think love has such a deeper meaning. Romantic love is just one example of what love can look like in our lives. But it has so much more meaning than that, and it's so much more detailed. It has so much more nuance than just a romantic love that we share with some other person. Today, I wanted to dig into that just a little bit. So, and I really think love means that we show up for one another, that we're there for one another. Shelly and I did some karaoke this last week. We do this from time to time. It was a good time, and so. So the story starts out, a pastor and a worship leader walk into a bar. It's a true story. This one's true. So we walk into this place this week. Actually, I got there before Shelly did. And I walk in, and there's a bartender behind the bar, and she says, are you Michael Scott? I said, yes. Are you a pastor? Now I'm getting nervous. I'm like, yes. She goes, are you that Affirming church? I was like, yes. And then she goes, oh my gosh, we've been following you online. We watch you. Thank you so much for the message that you've been preaching. We love it. And I was like, okay. Because, you never know. Sometimes you meet people and they're like, you're a jerk. I don't like you. And we're going to have words. This was an affirming conversation. And I had no clue who they were. And so we're talking, and I was trying to get their story. I'm like, well, so tell me what your life is about. And she said, I'm not just a bartender. She goes, that's what I do to pay the bills. But she goes, my real passion is I do tattoos. How many of you have a tattoo? I don't have one. I want one. One day I'm going to get a tattoo. And so she was telling about how she does tattoos, and this is a big passion. I'm like, that's so cool. And she goes, actually, what I do is I do specialized tattoos. And so she pulls her phone up, and she shows me a picture of a foot. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I see a foot. I see a big toe and some of the toes. And she goes, see that big toe? I'm like, yes. She goes, that big toe, there's no nail in that big toe. I'm like, what? And so she tattoos, 3D tattoos for people. Somebody had lost their toenail. Now, there are certain people that, I'm trying to dance around this a little bit, okay? If you were to have a mastectomy, there's certain tattoos, 3D tattoos that you might get. She's one of those people that does those tattoos, and that's really important work, and it makes people feel whole when they can look down at their body, and if they're missing a tattoo, if they're missing a toenail, they can tattoo one on. I thought that was really cool. Shelley, wasn't that cool? It was. We couldn't believe it. I'm like, that's not a real toenail, right? And so we were just we sat and talked to her for like 30 minutes, and she told us about her faith journey, and she told us her story and some of the pain that she had experienced in churches and some of her friends experienced. And she goes, you know what, I watch you online, but I might just show up one day. I'm like, by all means, I hope that happens. What was interesting in that conversation is we were able to kind of love on somebody, be present, to show up for somebody, and we didn't even know them. I thought that was so cool. And that you all provided space for that to happen, for somebody to feel like they were a part of a community, even though they've never stepped foot in this door. And that's what we're really all about, right? We're constantly creating and launching a network of micro communities where people, diverse communities where they feel safe and affirmed and loved. And this person felt that without ever stepping foot into this building. I can't tell you how excited and how happy I was that we are able to do that in our community. And it wasn't even here in Blue Springs. It was in a sister city not too far from here. And so I want to celebrate that. And I want to talk about what is it about the thing that we're doing here? What is it about love? What is it about showing up that Jesus taught us? Like, where does that come from? Now, we've talked about this the last few weeks. When Jesus is born, he's born to a group of people that are looking for, we would say, a Messiah, a Savior, one who is going to lead them, who's going to be the Prince of Peace, right? Everlasting Father, Wonderful Counselor. These are things that we read about in Isaiah from the Jewish people of what they are looking for of somebody that's going to come and save them. And often when we read language in the Old Testament, we are looking for somebody or something to save people. Often it's described in a violent way, right? They'll destroy our enemies. And if you were to read the Old Testament, you could read in Psalms where like God is going to protect us and take care of us. God is going to save us from these things. And so sometimes when we read that, and our Jewish brothers and sisters, when they read that, often they would read that and they would think, oh, we're looking for a warrior. We think that our Messiah, the person who's going to save us, is going to be a warrior. But what shows up is not a warrior. What shows up is Jesus, that we call the Messiah, that we call Christ, the Anointed One. And Jesus is peaceful, right? He's a pacifist. He loves people into new spaces. So what does that mean to our lives? Paul writes about love, and I love. See, I'm really intrigued by Paul's words about love. I use Corinthians 13 for every wedding that I do. And when Paul talks about love, in essence, love shows up for other people, right? He has this list of things that love is not. Love is not envious. It's not boastful. It's not proud, right? It's like you can have everything in life. You can be the most educated. You can know every language. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but it's meaningless. It's mist. It's smoke. It has no purpose unless the underlying condition with those things is love. And he goes on to describe love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious. It's not boastful. Here's one that I struggle with. Love keeps no record of wrongs. I see a few of you nodding your head. Love keeps no record of the things that we do wrong. Now, don't raise your hands because I don't want to call you out, but how many of you have a little bit of a tally, a little bit of a list of the last time your partner or your significant other did something to you? Yes? Some of us have those. Oh, yeah. I see some hands. I see a lot of, like, this is how our minds work. This is how our brains work. But to truly love somebody, to be with somebody, to show up for somebody, we're not keeping a record of those things. Now, don't hear me wrong. We don't allow people to hurt us. We don't allow people to abuse us. We're not talking about that. We're talking about in a healthy relationship, we're not keeping record of what those who are closest to us, how they've hurt us. We don't need to remind them. If you're anything like me, I remind myself enough of the pain that I've inflicted into people's lives. I have this voice in my head. Try to get rid of it. I've been to so much counseling, and what I've been told is that a lot of the core programming, it's really hard to get rid of those things, but I have a voice in my head that always tells me I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. So I have a voice in my head that reminds me, hey, you did this thing. Anybody else struggle with a voice like that sometimes? I do. Love doesn't just keep no records of wrongs of other people. See, when Paul describes love, he doesn't just say other people. It keeps no record of wrongs. So what does that include? Includes yourself. It doesn't keep track of all the things, all the ways that you've made mistakes. Another part of the Bible says, it describes love as this: love covers a multitude of sins. Now, it doesn't justify them. It doesn't say that it's okay to hurt people. But what it says is that we see people for more than the thing that they struggle with. We can look at a person and say, you know what? I see that there's a human being there, a child of God. I was reading somewhere, and somebody posted online that we're not all children of God. Only Jesus was a child of God, and that how bad and sinful and wrong we were. And I'm reading this going, oh my gosh. It took everything inside of me of not to correct him, right? But that's not the point. But that message is out there. I hope here we have a different message. God is love. Love keeps no record of wrong. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love, 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 love. And it always bends us towards the positive, towards being better. And the way we express that to other people is by showing up. The way God expressed that to us is it manifests in Jesus, right? John describes it this way, and we'll read this on Christmas Eve. The words, the way we describe love, they become flesh in Jesus. They become real. And the way they become flesh isn't that just Jesus was born. Jesus taught us very tangible ways in which we are to love each other, to take care of one another. Now, at the beginning of Jesus' story, I just want to read it real quick, actually. I brought it here today because I find this interesting. I find that what Jesus is born into, when we talk about, and on Christmas Eve we'll do this, we'll read the shepherds and the angels, and they brought gifts, and, a manger. Every time I read the story of Jesus, it is beautiful, and we've turned it into this Hallmark moment, right, where a card and a manger, and there's lights shining down, right, and there's a star in the sky, all these things, and I believe all those things to be true. But I think if we only focus on the Hallmark moments, we miss, what's the meaning of all this? Now, Jesus, let's remember, Jesus is born into total chaos. Martha and Joseph are traveling, right? They're homeless. They're strangers in a foreign land. They're going different places. They have no place to stay. And so Jesus is born into this very chaotic world. I want to start out on Matthew 1. So in the New Testament, it starts with the book of Matthew. And in Matthew, this is the account of Jesus and how Jesus was born. Matthew 1, starting at verse 18. It says, this is how the birth of Jesus took place. So this is how Jesus comes to be, okay? When Mary, his mother, was engaged to Joseph, before they were both married, she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man. Because he didn't want to humiliate her, he decided to call off their engagement quietly. As he was thinking about this, an angel from the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because the child she carries was conceived by the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you will call him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. Now, you've probably heard that before. I love this, very beginning of our New Testament, of our story, the New Testament. We have the old story, which is the Hebrew people, the history of the Hebrew people and the Jews, and you have the New Testament. This is the story. It starts with Jesus' life. In the very beginning, this would have been blasphemous. I want you to think of two young people, teenagers, most likely. We don't know for sure, but most likely Joseph and Mary were teenagers. And when we think of romantic love or people getting married, we think that they're in love. And when we read this story, does it seem like Mary and Joseph are just Twitter-pated with each other? Like when you heard that story just a minute ago, does that sound like two people that are oh my gosh, we're in love, this is great? We get an insight to a story that they're dating, they're engaged, and Mary becomes pregnant. And what does Joseph do? That's not my baby. Joseph's like, I'm out. And what it says is he was trying to be kind. He didn't want to humiliate Mary. He didn't want to do all these things. And so he was going to just quietly leave her. Now, I want you to imagine this. I want you to think of your significant other when at time you were in love with them. And I want you to think of that person. Maybe before you're married, maybe not everybody's married, but think of somebody that you've been in love with. And they come to you and say, share this news. Again, we glamorize it with the star and the lights and the manger, but put yourself in their position, Mary or Joseph. She's pregnant. She's terrified. She's a teenager. And Joseph, and I try to I'm a man, right? I put myself in Joseph's shoes. I'm like, I'm tapping out. This is what Joseph does. He's like, I'm going to leave Mary. Now, I love the fact that Joseph has this experience. He has this encounter with what I would call the holy, right? We would say with God. This says a heavenly messenger. Now, I've never had an angel, as we would talk about angels with wings. Those are actually called cherubim in the Old Testament. I've never had something like that approach me, but I've had many a heavenly messenger come to me in my life. Heavenly messenger was just like, when you said the heavens, it just meant beyond, the veil, the not understood, the thing we can't quite comprehend. And so if you were to be dreaming and you were inspired or had a dream and you felt there was something divine that would happen, how many of you have ever had a dream that you felt like, man, there was some kind of significance in that dream? Have you ever had a dream like that? I have. So Joseph has this experience, and something speaks to his soul, something speaks to his heart, and it says, you know what? This isn't your child. But there's something that has purpose here. There's something more than just whatever romantic love that you have, and I need you. You need to be a part of this. And it spoke to Joseph in some way. I mean, I can't fathom that he's just like, yeah, okay. And they decide to get married and to raise this wonderful baby that we call Jesus that taught us this new way of life. Pull the romance and the Hollywood and the Hallmark out of it, and you see two young teenage kids who are probably terrified and scared, who show up for each other, who are there for each other. This kid who would go on to teach us what love truly means, right? Jesus is born, he's coming, he's like, you know all the laws, but a new commandment I give you. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love those who don't love you. Love those who despitefully use you. Love others as I have loved you. Show up for people. A week ago today, some of you'll see a piano player every now and then. His name is Greg. He's the guy that works in the prisons, that is our liaison to our prison ministry that we have. He lost his mother a week ago today. And I sent a group text out to the rest of the band, and they said, oh my gosh, they reached out to him. And Greg was talking to me, and he's like, a couple people came out, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for you all that you all can create space to continue to love on each other, to be there for one another. I talked about our angel tree last week, and many of you, a lot of people watch from home, and they'll text me, hey, I want to come get some angel tree tags. I said, great. Steve's not here today, but Steve plays our bass most of the time. You'll see him standing over here, and Steve's retired. And Steve reached out, he's like, oh my gosh, I forgot angel tree tags. I'm like, that's fine. I'll send you some stuff. After church last Sunday, a young lady who lives in Green Valley reached out to us, and she said, I watch you guys online, and I heard you're doing an angel tree drive. I said, yes, we are. She goes, I have 4 kids. I said, great, send me a list. So she sends me a list. I was like, wonderful, lots of options. And so I sent it to Steve, and I sent it to another lady, Tiffany, who goes to church here. I said, listen, this is a lot of gifts. And I broke it down in half, and I said, I need you guys to do this and this. Can you do it? Both of them immediately replied to me and said, we're on it. You'll have it by next week. Here at the table, we show up for people. When we love people, we just don't say we love you. When we do say that, that's a healthy thing to do. But we show up for people. When there's a need, we fill that need. When somebody's hungry, we give them food. When somebody doesn't have Christmas and they need toys, we provide toys. There's a plethora of you that people who provide gift cards and grocery cards. When people need those things, we meet those needs, often based around families and children. Sometimes people get upset and like, well, they'll have some excuse of why they don't want to help somebody. This person made this decision. I'm like, that's not ours. And I can tell you for a fact that children don't choose this life. You can say what you want about an adult. I grew up poor. My parents made plenty of poor decisions. But I didn't choose that life. And so we intervene. We interact. We show up for people. The way we love people is by being with them, showing up at funerals, providing meals to people who need meals, providing toys. This is who we are. I mentioned the book by, doggone it, Mel Robbins, so I write things down, okay? Last week I read, it's called Let Them. And last week, being at peace means letting people be who they are. And the second half of the book is really about how do we love people for who they are and where they are, okay? So we show up for people. That's our mission. We show up for people. All people. There's no creed, there's no sexual orientation, there's no gender, there's nothing. We just show up for people regardless of any of those things, right? That's why we're an affirming church. We affirm all people for who they are and where they are. But also, like, how do we love people in the new spaces? And she talks about this. And this is where I struggle. My wife is much better at this. She's much more pastoral than I am. She can love people and be with people in their pain and their hurt and their struggling and not try to fix it. I do it, but it's not my default. My default is I'm a problem solver. I'm really good at managing projects, right? I've built stadium. I built Kauffman Stadium when we did. Like, I have done big things, and I'm so proud of those things. And I'm like, I can help people. It's really arrogant, by the way. I'm being facetious, okay? It's really arrogant of me to think that I can fix people, but it's what my default setting is. And so I have to listen to my spirit when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm struggling with this. I have to take a step back, and I have to let them be who they are. But she talks about how do we love people in the new spaces? Because if we love people, we don't want people to have to sit and stay in their struggle and their suffering, right? We want them to progress. We want them to move on. Katie wants me to be able to let go, and she's going to be there for me every time. We're going to keep talking about this, Katie. How do we do that? Now, I told that story about Katie because she did what I'm getting ready to tell you that Mel Robbins talks about in the book. So, Mel Robbins has this thing where she calls, I got to find it. She calls it the ABC loop. How many of you have heard of the ABC loop? Anybody? Good, it's all new information. All right, so it's an acronym. ABC means apologize and ask open-ended questions, right? This is how we love people in the new spaces, okay? Say you're sorry, right? By apologizing, you're not saying you did something. I'm sorry because you are struggling with this. I'm sorry that you're going through this, okay? Apologies diffuse people and are able for them to be in a different headspace, right? So apologize and then ask open-ended questions. Any of you ever downloaded Noom? It's like a weight loss app. Have you ever downloaded it on your phone? When you download Noom, they ask you a question. Why do you want to lose weight? And then you answer it, and then it asks you, so I was like, I want to be healthier. And then they asked me, well, why do you want to be healthier? And I'm like, I don't know why I want to be healthier. I want to be healthier so I can spend more time with my family. And they said, it just keeps going. She talks about that. There's 5 levels. If you really want to get to a root cause of an issue, you have to ask that why question 5 times. I want to lose weight. Why? Because I want to be with my family. Why? Because I love them. Why? Because I want to be present. Why? Right? You dig up to 5 times to really get to the root cause. So when she says, apologize, I'm sorry, you're dealing with this, but ask open-ended questions. When somebody's struggling with something, when you're sitting down with them, we're present with them, but there is a way that we can help people without trying to fix them. So the greatest thing, if you've done any work, if you've been any counseling, if you've been anything like that, any kind of therapy, your therapist will do this. They will ask you questions so that you can get to the point where you're aware of your own dysfunction, okay? And possibly how to fix it. It's really hard to tell something. It's actually, let's back up. It is really hard for us to see our stuff, right? We're huge fans in our house of Brene Brown. Brene Brown says the most educated, the most that people that are really doing the work every single day. What's the stat, Stace? The most, the best. And I love you all. None of you are the best at this, okay? I'm just like, none of you are professional people that do this, okay? None of us are the best. The best people, though, maybe you're in this room. I shouldn't say that. I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay. The best people can only see 30% of their stuff. But guess what our brains are really good at? You can see it in your partner. You can see it in the person sitting next to you. You can see it when you're with somebody else. Our brains are really, really good at seeing somebody else's dysfunction. So that's and that's the best people. Most of us are walking around we're a bunch of 14-year-old people, and that's about the emotional maturity we have. That's what's in Mel's book. And so to realize that's probably where we are, that's where a lot of other people are, right? And a lot of you are like, no, I'm not. That's your ego. Don't listen to it. Okay? I'm serious. That's your ego. Don't listen. Most of you are like, oh, I'm better than that. No, you're not. Accept that. It's okay, right? Accept that. And if your body's fighting it, good. That's normal. That's natural. Ryan is in the back of the room stretching his arms. He's really struggling with this right now. It's okay, but own it and know it. And also know that your default is going to be able to want to see somebody else's problems. Fight it. We're not just atoms and things and molecules. We're not just a human mind. There's a spirit inside of us, and that spirit is counterintuitive to our biology. That's why we call it the supernatural. It supersedes our nature. And we have this ability to overcome those things. So we have this ability to sit down with somebody and not point out when they're doing something wrong, but that we can be with them and be present. And we can apologize and say we're sorry for that they're going through that, and then ask questions to help them, to assist them. Be like, maybe, why do you feel that way? And then they can answer their question and hopefully come some kind of awareness. Now again, this is not a forced situation. This is if this happens naturally, okay? So that's the A of the ABC loop. The B, ask those questions, and this is one of my favorite parts. This is where I struggle. I can ask questions. I'm great at that part. I can apologize. I'm great at that part. The second part, the B part, is back off. Right? That's first, back off, and observe. Now, what happens is we'll ask questions. They'll come to something, and they'll be like, ooh, that's when we dip in and be like, okay, have you thought about this? Don't do that. Ask the question and back off. Observe. Let them be. Let them. Love them from afar. The last part is if hopefully they come to some kind of awareness, they can identify an issue, a problem, or a struggle, or a pain. After you back off and you'll just watch, they're going to make some kind of progress. I'm going to talk about my weight loss journey for a minute. This is hard for me to say, at the beginning of this year, I had hit 320 pounds. And I talked about this before, a couple years ago. My adopted mother, my wife, and some friends came to me. My blood pressure was through the roof, all these things, right? And I've always struggled with my weight. I was a chubby kid. If you saw pictures of me in grade school, I mean, I was 10 pounds, 1 ounce at birth, right? I was born big. I've always been a bigger guy. And it had gotten so far out of hand that my health was failing. And I've just struggled with it. Just struggled with it my entire life. And I started losing weight. I changed some habits, okay? But I had to come to the realization, yes, my family had a little bit of intervention, and I invited them into those spaces, right? I needed help. I needed some accountability. And we were talking, and what I had to learn, I have a group of friends. Some are here in this room. And I weigh in on a weekly basis. Anybody ever been on a weight loss journey? Successful or not? Anybody ever been on one? A lot of us probably have. And every week, I weigh in, and I send the results to Jeremy and Shelly, and then I have another group of friends too. Like not every week, every other week maybe. And I'm like, I'm down, right? And I'll say the number. And this last part is that we celebrate with people. I had to decide in my life that I wanted something different, that I was struggling in an area of my life. But I didn't do it on my own. I'm not standing up here saying I did all those things. What I'm saying is that people loved me into new spaces. They were there for me. My wife, my partner, my soulmate, has loved me into new spaces and has celebrated with me. Not one time in our relationship has she ever, well, she's looked at me in disgust, but not because of my body. Okay, she's constantly been there. And every time we have a celebration, I'm telling you, she has her pom-poms out and she is celebrating and cheering with me and cheering me on to that finish line. Last Friday, we celebrated 21 years of that. 21 years of her constantly being there, constantly celebrating me. I give that example because I believe that is who we are to be for each other. That's not just in a partner relationship or a marriage or a spouse. That kind of encouragement, the C of ABC, is to celebrate progress, and I didn't do the other part, while modeling change. My wife doesn't struggle with her weight. I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. That's not one of the things that she struggles with. And so she would come and she'd be like, what do you need? I'm like, I need you to get all this doggone food out of our house. Because I'm one of those people that, I grew up poor, didn't have a lot of food. If there was food in the house, we ate it. Okay? My wife comes from an environment where there's always a bunch of food in the house, and so I think I've talked about this. She has all this food, I just want to eat it, and so it created this really bad combination of things. We had to work on that. She had to help me, and she had to model a certain kind of behavior so that it helped me and celebrate every time we did something. These are the ways that we show up for people. We say we're sorry. We ask a lot of questions. We don't judge. We step back. We observe. And then we celebrate with them when they've made the smallest little baby step. When I lost that first pound, my wife was in the background cheering, right? And when my wife cheers and celebrates, you know how she cheers and celebrates? With food and wine. These are the ways that we show up for one another. I'm going to end with this. She talks about in the book, and I just thought was very, very applicable to us. She goes, there is a difference between choosing love and chasing love. Now, how many of you have ever heard the term, like, she's just not that into you, or he's just not that into you, whatever it's applicable, right? And we've probably all had relationships like that, or people we've known, where we feel like we're pursuing them constantly, and it just feels like they're not that into us. So she goes, there's a difference. That's chasing love, right? Chasing somebody who's never going to reciprocate. There's a difference. And this, again, this is easy to identify in romantic love, but these apply to all relationships. And she applies it to all relationships. There's a difference between chasing somebody and choosing somebody. I have a lot of friends in my life. And there are certain friends in my life, and they know who they are, where I don't have to chase them. They just show up. I've had friends for a long time, and there's some friends in my life that I just feel like I'm always reaching out, and it's not reciprocal. And she's like, listen, in those situations, let them. Don't get your feelings hurt over that. She goes, find people in your life that where maybe you're mutually chasing each other. And I hope that's true in your marriage or your relationship with your partner, whatever you have. I hope that's true. But that doesn't just apply romantically. That applies to your friends and family. Choose to be with people who want to be with you. It's when we're both in pursuit of that relationship, we can both come to the table and say, we love one another. And when we love one another, we love each other enough to not let us stay in the places of unhealth or struggle or pain. Now, we don't forcefully try to change people, but we are there. We are creating sacred spaces where we can have hard conversations, where we can ask difficult questions. A friend reached out to me yesterday, and we talk about my part of the weight loss journey, and they were saying that they were going to try something, and I said, ooh, I've been waiting for this moment, by the way. I've been waiting for this moment. I've seen on their face when we've been talking about it and their struggle and how painful it's been, and I was like, hey. And they reached out first, right? I've just been sitting back and observing. And they said, you know what? I'm gonna start this journey that I've seen you be on. I was like, will you be my accountability partner? And they said yes. That's showing up for each other. I don't need to tell my friend that they need to lose weight. That's not mine to tell. But when they come to me and they say, I'm ready, doggone it, I'm going to jump in full force. There are people all around you this time of year that are hurting, that are struggling, that find themselves in the darkness. To love them means that we show up with them. It means that we can see beyond whatever hurt and pain. It means we don't judge. It means we don't give our advice. It means we model the behavior that we want them to see. It means we ask them questions. And most importantly is we celebrate and encourage each other. You're going to come across somebody this week that's struggling. Find a way to ABC your way through that. And for me, that's really hard. For Katie, it's a little bit easier because she's been there, right? There are those of you that have been in a situation, you're going to be with somebody. I've been through a weight loss journey. Now I can help other people. Somebody else has been through a divorce. Now they can help other people. Katie has older kids and she's been there. And now she's going to help me, right? The list goes on and on and on. We all have our dysfunction. We all have our pain. Love is the vehicle that takes our pain and transforms it into some kind of healing. We go through that in our lives and then we help other people on their journey, not in a judgmental way, in a helpful way. In a, hey, have you thought about this? That's much easier said than done. As you think on that, as you think on ways to do that, let's go to God in prayer. God, we thank you for the opportunity to provide hope, peace, and God, today, this focus on love, that we show up for other people. God, help us to remember our ABCs. Help us to remember that we have these romantic loves and relationships, and that's a model, God, for all the relationships in our life. Help us to show up for everyone. Help us to be there for them. Help us to be on this journey together. God, there are those in this room who have been through something hard, and I know right now, because I'm doing the same thing, I know they're telling themselves that they don't have anything to offer. God, I want to pray for that person or those people that are in this room. They've been through something difficult. Help them to know that that is a blessing, and that as you're working in their lives, the way that you show up in our lives, God, is that we show up for others. God, help them to have the courage. Help them to be brave. Help them to love and to show up for their neighbor. God, we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Check, check, check. Got me? Amen. Thank you. You mentioned saying sorry. I'm going to apologize in advance because this is going to make some of you just a little uncomfortable. And then the mics of the world, they're going to be giddy and they're going to enjoy it. So if you're willing, I'm going to ask you guys to fill the first two rows. Just come in, squeeze in together. Stand up, stretch out, move on up, moving on up. Yes. Got the walk. Move on up, squeeze in together. All in the first two front rows right here. All right, Shannon, I'm going to pop a mic over to you. Actually, I'll move you over here. This group, yep. And another taker. Come on, who wants it? We're going to sing opera together. Just kidding. You win. Nope. Yep. Just hold it. Just hold it. You guys are like, what is happening?
Did you just create a band with the audience?
I did.
Okay.
I did. So, we talked about love. Sometimes you got to get close, and we're going to spread a little bit of that. And I think you guys all know this. The ones with the mics, let me hear. The best way to spread Christmas cheer
Is by singing loud for all to hear.
That's right. That's right. So we are going to sing loud for all to hear. And you're going to give me just a second to figure this out. That's right. There we are. You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list and checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Oh, it's Santa.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Woo! Yay! I heard you guys. I actually heard you.
Well, hopefully we had a little fun today. And if you didn't get a picture with Santa, be sure and grab a picture with Santa on your way out. Thank you all for being here. Now go in peace.